So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is not follow Nolan's advice yesterday and have a nap after lunch. So I'm going to talk to you today about social, maybe not the way that you think about social media today, that you have a Facebook page or a Twitter handle or an Instagram account, but talking about social in a way that it impacts the opportunities and the growth for your businesses and you as individuals who own the brands that you engage with as a customer. So I'm going to start first with the challenge for marketing, which actually hasn't changed since I started in marketing over 20 years ago, and it was the same challenge put to us then. How do you get the right offer to the right person at the right time using the right channel? How do you acquire new customers? How do you cross-sell to customers? How do you retain customers? How do you drive greater loyalty? So the challenge for us, whether you're in marketing or business, is still the same. You're solving some part of that problem. But our customers are changing. And our customers are changing because technology is making it possible to move away from where you used to know they were. They're no longer in front of their TVs. They're no longer in front of their desktop computers. And every time they're engaging with their mobile phone and they're on their Facebook page or liking a post or following a brand or leaving a comment, they're leaving a little digital footprint. And this is providing real-time actionable insight. And for companies who understand that, they can use this rich source of data to help them know their customer better. And us as consumers who know that this is actually going on, whether you think you're given permission for it or not, is you can use this to your advantage as well. So you've probably heard about the lazy web, where people put a question out, and because they trust the people that they have connected with, they get their answers from them. So the mobile phone's really been at the heart of how and why social is so prolific. And I mean, it astounds me now how much it has actually even changed our viewing habits. So as someone who was producing content, decades ago, and you had to think about things in a horizontal format, because people hold their mobile phones upright, everything now needs to be considered in a vertical format. And you need to think about content in terms of screen size and what actually shows in posts in terms of images. But the key thing here is that when you wake up in the morning, nearly half of you, for those who aren't in the 18 to 24-year-old age gap, reach for your phone, and you reach for your phone because this becomes your news source. And you're not necessarily going to news sites, you're going to your social sites, and that's where you're finding all your information. You're aggregating your own personal news feeds, your own entertainment, your own infotainment, if you like. 75% of millennials reach for their phone within 15 minutes of waking up. And so social is now driving for businesses over 30% of traffic to their website where they're converting, and particularly in the digital age where most things are e-commerce space. And Facebook is driving 60% of that. So this is why social starts to and needs to have a different meaning in your organisation as to how you are actually designing content, thinking about how to use these digital footprints of people to be able to do something with it. And the challenge is you must know your customer better than anyone else. And they are giving these clues, and they're expecting that you know how they're feeling and how they're behaving in real time, because context matters. So people are at the heart of your business, people are at the heart of social. So a problem we look to solve in our business at Digivizer is understanding people at the heart of social. So using all the information that you publicly allow for people to find you, so your title, your interests, the brands that you choose to follow, the content that you choose to like, the people you choose to follow, what we understand about you that you publicly allow, as well as what you do when you say something publicly. So it can be explicit, so you actually say, where do you think I should go on my next holiday? Or it may be, I'm actually starting to follow travel sites, or I'm starting to like travel content, or I start to link someone and say, is this where you were? Or you like somebody else's public page, so that gives the context. it's meaningful if you've connected it to the person, because it allows you to then make sure that the content that you serve up to them makes sense to them. So a family looking for a holiday is going to look for completely different things in terms of offer and context and images to someone who's looking to maybe trek in Nepal, who's under 25. So context and the person that you're serving it is important, as well as being able to map to whether they're your customer already. There's nothing more upsetting to your customers if you serve them something that indicates you don't really know them. The other bit that happens in terms of this rich source of data in social is that it's people and content and what happens when they say something. So you can start to look at things like influence. So by taking a data-driven approach, you can ask more interesting questions and engage your customers in new ways. And these new ways actually start with trying to understand this concept of influence. So if you know these are your customers and you know they like this type of content, but the person who's going to get most engagement from them, who's already built great content and great community, if you can actually see that that's where they get their information, you can start to answer this question of how do we find the people who can actually help identify, and for others to identify, that want factor. I want what she's having. So when we look at influence, in terms of influencer identification, they're different for every single company. A food company who they'd be looking for is going to be different from a wealth or financial services company is going to be different from a travel company, etc., etc. Telco, they're all going to be different. And so using that data, those rich digital footprints that are out there, we start to ask these questions. So what are people saying? What happens when they communicate? So who's engaging with it? Are they engaging the target audience that you're interested in? Who has the best content characteristics? So if you've got a visual brand, say a food brand, you want people who are really prolific on Instagram or YouTube, if that's your audience who will source that content. If you're a telco or you're in some sort of thought leadership, you might like long-form content. So again, you can start to categorise and mark all those different forms of content. Is it positive in sentiment? Is it in line with your passions? You know, if you launch a yogurt brand, don't target vegans. And does it have no competing brand associations? If you get that right, you'll find the perfect influencer. And when you find that perfect influencer, then you look at what's the win-win-win for them. So what's the ultimate win for the end audience? What's the win for the influencer? They're already good at engaging those customers. And what's the win for you? So how do you create that beautiful ecosystem? And then what are those activations where you put it back into the terms of the person who woke up in the morning and held their mobile phone? You know, they looked for something. So how can you make that something that's going to entertain, or that infotainment? You know, it's information, but it's going to be interesting and to engage them. And then other things to think about in terms of social, in using that rich data and looking at how you might create these awesome social activations is, you know, how do you deliver more value? How do you make it really affordable, so for the lowest cost, to reach more people? And that more for less for more is also a formula for success. So those two things are good guidance. In terms of thinking about social in this context, I'm going to put to you that moving forward, these are sort of the 4 things you need to think about. Real-time analytics provide real-time actionable audience insights, and it also creates audiences who are active today. So don't target someone who liked a property page 10 years ago if you want people who are in the property market today. Target the active ones. Tap into digital triggers, behaviours that allow for real-time response and mass personalisation. You know, look for crowdsourcing of sales, service, support, content creation. People are rich in wanting to help others, and they're there at that source where they can share it through social. And consider the activations that delight and target the passion points and active audience participation. And you get that right, and you ask that right question that I talked about yesterday. If you ask the right question to data, then you'll drive the best algorithms and ask for real-time data, so address the question, the real-time algorithms against real-time data, you'll win. So thank you.